Have you ever noticed that no matter how hard you try, you can't shake that feeling of walking alone? What if that loneliness is actually part of a greater plan? It might seem strange to believe that even silence holds a purpose, but what if it's the very path to something far grander? Could there be another chosen one waiting for the right moment to connect with you? Think about it. How many times have you wondered if you're truly on the right path? How many times has your faith wavered because you didn't see clear signs? What if the answer isn't in continuing alone but in preparing for an encounter that changes everything? Have you ever imagined discovering that your destiny wasn't designed just for your individual journey, but for a union that multiplies strength, power, and purpose? The big question is, are you ready to recognize that moment when it arrives? What you'll discover here is a transformative key. Your perspective on isolation, faith, and purpose will shift radically. You'll realize that nothing you've experienced was in vain, and every desert, every tear, every silence was shaping you for something greater. You'll understand that there's an unbreakable promise. God has already aligned the heavens for your encounter with the other chosen one, and when that happens, your life will never be the same. It's no coincidence that so many feel restless when trying to live in isolation. There's a calling that cannot be fulfilled alone, and that restlessness is a sign that the next step has already been released from heaven. The chosen one must understand that the journey doesn't end in the silence of the desert, but moves toward an encounter written before you were even born. Your heart senses it, even if your mind doesn't fully grasp it, that there's someone marked by the same fire. This search isn't guided by chance, nor is it about an idealized romantic encounter, but something orchestrated by God. It's as if two flames, scattered in different places, are drawn together until they meet and become a single blaze. When this happens, what once seemed impossible takes shape and meaning. The burden carried alone finds relief, and faith is strengthened by the confirmation that the plan was always bigger. Imagine someone trying for years to open an iron door, pushing with all their strength to no avail. Suddenly, another person appears with the right key, and what was impossible becomes simple. That's what the encounter with the other chosen one is like. The mission advances rapidly because there's a supernatural alignment sustaining both. The heavens witness this moment, and the earth feels the effects of this union. The feeling of being guided doesn't come from imagination, but from the certainty that a prepared destiny awaits. Many subtle signs point in this direction, words that arrive at the exact moment, seemingly ordinary encounters that carry eternal weight, or even dreams that announce new paths. The mission isn't a guessing game, but a clear movement for those with spiritual sensitivity. And when this encounter happens, it won't just be another chapter in life, it'll be a complete change of course. What once took years unfolds in days. What was stuck begins to flow. God has always worked this way, using people to release other people. The chosen one doesn't walk just to survive, but to find the one who carries the other part of the plan. If there's a greater mission, there's also hidden power in this union. When two chosen ones recognize each other, something happens in the heavens that cannot be ignored. It's what leads us to see the next point, where the union doesn't just add but multiplies purpose and power. When two chosen ones meet, the spiritual atmosphere doesn't stay the same. It's like the breaking of a storm that was being held back. The heavens open, angels move, and even the darkness realizes something extraordinary has just happened. It's not just a partnership. It's a divine summons where faith and purpose merge to unleash a force that isolation could never allow. What once seemed slow begins to gain speed. Imagine two people rowing in different directions, unable to reach their destination. But when their oars finally move in sync, the boat glides forward unstoppably. That's what this union is. It accelerates the journey, unlocks doors that were sealed, and opens paths that individual effort couldn't reach. In this encounter, the chosen one realizes their faith wasn't an exaggeration or madness. What felt like too heavy a burden was only because it was designed to be shared. Together, the purpose multiplies, and the impact reaches places that once seemed unattainable. The spiritual realm understands that the order has been given, and nothing can stop the advance when this union takes place. A practical example of this is seen in those who've experienced partnerships that changed destinies. Think of people who met at the right time and transformed entire societies. Men and women who carried impossible dreams, but together became references of faith, courage, and transformation. This wasn't chance, it was alignment. That's why this union shouldn't be treated as something ordinary. It's a turning point, a fresh breath that changes the atmosphere and renews strength. When the chosen one meets the other chosen one, they don't just grow. They witness a manifestation of God that shakes even those watching from the outside. It's impossible to remain indifferent to this encounter. And while many still wonder why they had to endure so much isolation, the answer begins to unfold. The desert wasn't the end, but the necessary preparation. It's at this point that we understand the true meaning of the silence and loneliness that preceded the encounter. Many interpret loneliness as a sign of abandonment, but in reality, it's a secret training ground. Isolation shapes character, discipline, and resilience, like fire refining gold, until it shines without impurities. In the silence, the heart learns to hear what the noise of the world could never allow. The chosen one isn't forgotten. They're being prepared. This desert is a divine laboratory where faith is tested and strengthened. It's in this environment that you learn to trust God even when there's no evidence around you. The emptiness so many try to avoid becomes the place where the Holy Spirit speaks most clearly. It's as if every day of loneliness is a personalized lesson designed to prepare someone for the extraordinary. Think of Moses, who spent years in hiding before returning to Egypt as a liberator, or David, trained among sheep before facing giants. These examples aren't in the Bible by chance. They reveal that isolation was never the final destination, but the necessary process for the greater mission. The chosen one must go through this stage to carry true authority. Practically, this period also demands choices. It's the time to dive into reading, invest in prayer, and write reflections that will become a compass in the future. A good tip is to keep a spiritual journal, noting lessons and signs received. Later, this record will be living proof that nothing was in vain. The mistake is thinking isolation means weakness or punishment. In truth, it's a gift, even if wrapped in silence and tears. What seems like delay is actually invisible acceleration. Every minute in this laboratory prepares the chosen one to bear burdens that wouldn't be possible without this training. And precisely because of this refining, the heart becomes more attuned to spiritual language. It's at this point that the revelation comes. The voice of heaven doesn't sound like ordinary voices, and only those marked by the same fire can understand it. There are words that can't be translated by dictionaries, only felt in the spirit. That's how it is with the chosen ones. They carry a heavenly code that makes no sense to those who've never tasted the same calling. When they speak, it's not just information but revelation that pierces invisible barriers and touches the deepest parts of the soul. This language isn't learned in human books, but in the secret rooms of prayer. Those who experience it understand that a single phrase can carry eternal weight. It's like a melody only heard by those tuned to heaven's frequencies. To others, it may sound strange, but to another chosen one, it's a familiar song. That's why when two marked by the same purpose meet, there's no judgment, just recognition. It's as if they're speaking an ancient language, already spoken before they were born. The naturalness of this communication breaks down distrust and builds instant trust, because both know it's not just words, but signs from God. In practice, this can be seen in simple situations: an unexpected conversation that brings instant peace, a seemingly casual phrase that answers a secret prayer, or even a glance that communicates more than 1,000 words. All of this forms the spiritual language only the chosen ones understand. Interestingly, this connection doesn't depend on time or physical proximity. Even when separated, two chosen ones can feel the same spiritual impulse, receive identical confirmations in different places, or even dream the same images. This only reinforces that their communication was already established in heaven. This language wasn't given to create distance, but to unite. It's what prepares the heart to identify who was truly called to walk side by side. And when it manifests, it's impossible to ignore, because everything around confirms that the encounter isn't by chance but by destiny. The greatest danger never comes in the form of something obviously evil, but disguised as light. The enemy is an expert at creating illusions that seem like answers from God, but are traps to delay the chosen one. He sends toxic relationships, draining alliances, and distractions that steal focus, all with one goal: to keep the promise far from fulfillment. This strategy isn't new. It's been recorded since the beginning of human history. The deception in Eden was presented as wisdom, not sin. Similarly, the enemy offers shortcuts that seem easier than waiting for the right time. The problem is that these shortcuts always lead to pain and frustration. That's why discernment is vital. The chosen one must learn to identify what adds and what divides. This only happens through intimacy with God, who reveals what human eyes can't see. It's in the secret place on your knees that masks fall and truth is revealed. A practical example: how many times has someone entered a partnership, friendship, or relationship believing it was a blessing, only to realize later it brought delay? That's how the enemy works, disguising confusion as opportunity. The solution is simple, though demanding. Don't take a step without seeking spiritual direction. Even when everything seems unfavorable, the chosen one must remember that nothing can erase what was decreed in eternity. The enemy may delay, wound, or tire, but he can never cancel what God has written. This is the foundation of faith, trusting that the promise is greater than any opposing strategy. And precisely because this invisible war is intense, when the chosen ones unite, the impact in the spiritual realm is devastating to the darkness. It's at this point that the true power of this alliance is understood, something that not only resists the enemy, but defeats him with multiplied strength. When two chosen ones unite, it's not just a friendship or ordinary partnership. It's like an earthquake in the spiritual realm. Chains that seemed impossible to break are shattered in moments. What was closed opens, because the authority of two in agreement releases a supernatural force no obstacle can withstand. This impact is so great that even the heavens respond differently. Prayers gain a potency they didn't have before, because now it's not just one crying out, but two in unity. It's the fulfillment of the revealed spiritual law. One can put 1,000 to flight, but two can put 10,000 to flight. This principle isn't a metaphor, it's reality. Many have experienced a taste of this without realizing it. When two friends of faith pray together, they already feel the difference. Now imagine two chosen ones, prepared by the fire of isolation, uniting in purpose. The effect is exponential, like an explosion that echoes in both the visible and invisible realms. In practice, this can open doors supernaturally. Projects that were stalled start moving, resources appear unexpectedly, and opportunities arise as confirmation of the divine movement. All this because the union isn't just between people, but between destinies already aligned in heaven. This impact isn't fleeting, it's ongoing. Once the two recognize each other, the surrounding atmosphere is never the same. The spiritual environment gains new depth because God's presence manifests on deeper levels, reinforcing that the encounter isn't human, but divine. And this explosion of power doesn't happen in isolation. It paves the way for prophetic signs that confirm each step. Even before the physical encounter, heaven begins sending messages to prepare the heart and align the journey. There are moments when heaven decides to speak clearly, and the signs repeat until they can't be ignored. Recurring dreams, unfamiliar faces appearing in your mind, seemingly ordinary encounters that carry supernatural weight. These aren't coincidences, they're God signaling that the other chosen one is closer than you think. These signs don't come to create fear, but to prepare the heart. A simple example: someone might hear the same word repeatedly in different places, like a divine echo. Another might feel inexplicable peace in situations that logically should cause anxiety. These details are clues that the encounter is in motion. The Bible is full of episodes where God used signs to confirm destinies. Joseph interpreting dreams in Egypt, Gideon receiving proof with the fleece, the Magi guided by a star to Christ's birth. The same principle repeats. Before the promise manifests, heaven sends markers so no one doubts what's about to happen. In everyday life, this might show up as doors suddenly closing, not by chance but because they weren't part of the plan, or unexpected connections with people who bring exactly the word needed. Recognizing these signs requires sensitivity, and that sensitivity only grows in those who've learned to listen in silence. Those who don't understand this process might find it strange or overly mystical, but for the chosen one, it's natural. It's as if every detail is a reminder. Don't stop, don't give up, the encounter is already written. These signs are loving messages from God to keep faith from crumbling before the right time. And when these signs finally align and converge at a single point, something extraordinary happens. The Spirit instantly recognizes the other chosen one without needing words or external proof. There's no way to explain with logic what happens the moment two chosen ones see each other for the first time. It's as if a veil is torn, and the Spirit testifies, "This is the one set apart with you." There's no doubt, no room for hesitation. The heart confirms before the mind can form a thought. This familiarity is so intense, it feels like you've known each other forever. It's not just sympathy or affinity, it's something eternal, from before the foundation of the world. Their souls were already linked in God, and the earthly encounter merely manifests what was already reality in heaven. To many, this might sound like exaggeration, but those who've lived it know exactly what it means. It's like hearing an ancient song your heart recognizes without ever having heard it before. The look, the voice, even the silence carries confirmation. The other isn't a stranger, they're part of the same promise. In daily life, this recognition can be seen in small gestures, a simple conversation that creates a deep connection, a casual word that seems saved just for that moment. These are keys of confirmation, showing that the Spirit doesn't err when God has already united them. This recognition is so strong, it eliminates the need for external proof. No grand demonstrations are necessary because the inner self testifies with supernatural certainty. It's the feeling of coming home after a long journey. The rest comes not from the place, but from the person found. And from this recognition, the journey doesn't stay the same. Because if the Spirit confirms so clearly, the heavens begin to intensify signs, dreams, and confirmations, preparing both for the intensity about to unfold. As the encounter draws near, heaven turns up the volume of the signs. It's no longer just one or two isolated confirmations, but a sequence of events that seem to shout, "The time is coming." Dreams become more vivid, spiritual experiences multiply, and even casual conversations seem to carry prophetic messages. It's as if the invisible starts becoming visible. The chosen one notices something is changing because even the surrounding environment carries a different weight. The heart burns, prayers flow with greater intensity, and God's presence becomes more tangible. There's no room for doubt because every detail aligns to confirm that destiny is in motion. It's impossible to stay indifferent when heaven is at work. This intensification also serves as protection. God doesn't allow the chosen one to walk without clarity in something so important. That's why the signs repeat, to leave no room for confusion or deception. Those who walk in the Spirit know how to recognize when the Father speaks, because his voice echoes in different places at once. A practical example might be someone hearing the same word multiple times in a day without telling anyone, or opening the Bible and finding a passage that confirms exactly what they dreamed. These repetitions aren't chance. They're the Holy Spirit's trademark, preparing the ground for the encounter. The spiritual activity during this time is so intense that even attacks become more evident. The enemy senses he's about to lose ground and tries to sow confusion, fear, or distractions. But it's precisely in these moments that faith must rise, because the escalation of the battle is proof that victory is near. And when this atmosphere becomes too clear to ignore, preparation takes center stage. It's not enough to wait passively. You must align in discipline, holiness, and faith to not miss the exact moment the other chosen one appears. No encounter of this level happens impromptu. Heaven demands preparation, because without it, the chosen one risks not recognizing the promise when it arrives. This preparation is like polishing a vessel to hold oil. If it's not clean, the precious contents might be lost. That's why the heart must be aligned before destiny manifests. The first key to this preparation is deep prayer. Not automatic or empty prayers, but real intimacy with God, where tears, questions, and worship mix. It's in this secret place that faith strengthens and spiritual discernment sharpens like a sword ready for battle. Another key is fasting, which isn't just abstaining from food, but aligning body and spirit to hear more clearly. It brings purification, sensitivity, and strength against distractions. When the body is silenced, the spirit speaks louder, and this is essential to avoid being deceived by false signs. It's also necessary to deal with old wounds. The past can't be a chain that binds the future. Seeking inner healing, releasing forgiveness, and closing open emotional doors are steps that make room for the new. Without this process, the promise could be stifled by unresolved memories. Consistent spiritual discipline is also part of this preparation. Reading the Word daily, fasting with purpose, keeping the heart humble, and cultivating expectant faith. These habits build a solid foundation to bear the weight of what's to come. It's like training before a marathon. When the big day arrives, the body is ready. This preparation isn't a burden but a privilege. It ensures that, at the right moment, the chosen one doesn't just meet the other, but is ready to live everything God has written. And when this preparation is complete, the prophetic call begins to sound even louder, announcing that the new phase is about to begin. The moment comes when what seemed like theory turns into practice. The time of loneliness ends, and heaven announces a shift in seasons. The chosen one is no longer just someone who survived the desert, but someone prepared for an encounter that will be a spiritual earthquake. Authority, purpose, and glory begin to flow in a multiplied way. This call isn't just to hear, but to respond. When the heart moves in faith, the response in the spiritual realm is immediate. That's why declaring the number 333 in the comments isn't a simple gesture, but a prophetic sign of readiness. It's saying, I'm prepared for the mission. I no longer walk alone. Faith manifests in simple actions, and every act of obedience draws movement from heaven. So when someone writes this number, they're not just typing, they're activating a spiritual key of agreement with the divine plan. It's a public declaration that resonates in the invisible, showing that the wait is over and the promise is moving. This call also serves to awaken those still asleep. When someone witnesses this decision, they're inspired to seek the same response. Thus, the message isn't just individual but collective, and the impact goes beyond the screen. It's like a wave that starts small and soon becomes unstoppable. The chosen one must understand that the new phase has already begun. It's not a promise for a distant future, but an announcement for now. The time of waiting is over, and the heavens are positioned to release what was written in eternity. The encounter with the other chosen one will be the milestone of a journey that will never be the same again. And so the prophetic voice echoes, rise up, declare your faith, and prepare. Because the encounter won't just be a personal change, but a sign to all around that God fulfills what he promises. The call has been released, and those who respond will see glory manifest in a supernatural way.